So we did the transition with her. And then when she came back for her follow-up appointments, she was sharing with me with tears in her eyes about how it's changed her life. She feels so free because she's no longer handcuffed to having to get her roots done every 4 weeks. I mean, that's a huge thing for anybody.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk, where we feature the top practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Mandy McCullough, who is the owner of Fix Salon Seattle, a leading salon in the Seattle area for the past 17 years. With over 25 years as a Redken artist, she has dedicated her career to education, most recently focusing on training and developing the next generation of Redken educators. In addition to her work behind the chair and on stage, Mandy serves as a salon business mentor with High Performance Salon Academy, where she helps salon owners and beauty professionals grow their businesses and exceed their own expectations of success. Her passion lies in empowering others in the beauty industry through mentorship, education, and leadership development. So Mandy, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. I'm excited to spend some time with you today.
Yeah, so let's start with your story. How did you first get into the beauty and hair industry?
Not intentional. I was not too sure what I wanted to do. I had been a dancer forever and a dance teacher, and then I knew that wasn't my career. I went to college for a couple of years, then paused on that. And in the mid-90s, I was working at a resort during the day spa days when those just opened. And so that's how I was introduced to that industry. And I really liked it. And I also felt like the hairstylists were always having a good time. And I thought, well, maybe this is something I would want to do. However, I still wasn't sure if it was something that like my parents would consider an equal career as like a college career. But I spoke with one of the stylists there who happened to have been a former Redken educator. And she shared with me that not only can being a hairstylist be a successful career. In addition to that, there's a lot of different paths you can take within that career, including becoming an educator. So I went to cosmetology school with the intention of not just becoming a hairstylist, but becoming an educator eventually. And so that's what has led me to becoming a hairstylist, which I love that job so much, but also having worked in hair education for almost 25 years.
Okay, awesome. So how did you end up starting up your own salon then? Like, what was that journey like?
Yeah, again, not intentional. But what happened was I had been working for other salons in the Seattle area, and I was actually looking to purchase a home. And a friend introduced me to a new construction that it's a 3-story live-work townhome. So the bottom floor can be designated commercial, while the upstairs is the living space. And it seemed like an ideal setup. And so I had that with 3 styling chairs. I had 2 of my friends who were renting from me. That was in 2009. Then around 2014, we decided to expand the business space. And then I went into an employee model, just one, because of my passion of helping other people grow in my industry, as well as just finding new revenue streams for myself.
Got it. And in your introduction, I mentioned that you're a Redken artist. So could you talk a little bit more about what is that? What is a Redken artist?
Sure. So I specialize in providing continuing education to salon professionals in our industry. And I do that through the company of Redken, whose parent company is L'Oreal. And we are the leader in how we provide continuing education to the salon industry globally. And it's been really great because it helps me always have new things to learn, which I love learning, but I also really love helping other people in the hair industry become successful. And I think sometimes hairstylists are, they're stereotyped as not successful and not a high-level professional, where I think the absolute opposite is true. And so becoming a Redken educator has given me the opportunity to grow my own career as well as to help others.
Got it. And for the mentoring part of it, I think this kind of ties into you being the educator with Redken, but I guess what prompted you to really want to be a mentor to other business owners?
Overall, it just still expands from me loving to help other people grow. I have now owned my own business for 17 years, and I have learned some super tough lessons along the way. I think all of us who are business owners, there's ups and downs to it.
Hmm.
And I would love to shorten that learning curve for others. And if there's anything I can teach them to help them become stronger, more successful, better leaders, I really am, I'm passionate about helping them to do that.
Okay, got it. Now, I'm sure that throughout your entire journey, you've learned a lot being a business owner. So for I guess your students who have their own businesses or thinking about getting into business, I guess what would you say are some of the top lessons or advice that you would give to them?
I feel like some of the top lessons I would share is just because you're passionate about the topic of your industry, so whatever career you're in, just because you're passionate about it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to jump with success into being a business owner of it.
Hmm.
And for me, that was some of my biggest learning curves, and having to learn about finances, how to read a P&L, knowing what a balance sheet is, and also being empowered to understand how I can influence those things within my business as well. So making sure that you have the right financial advisors alongside of you that you can trust. I think the other thing is, for me, that's been a tough lesson, and I would imagine it would be for other business owners as well, is just the transition of employees to your company. I have hired some incredible people, but their destination is not always to be with me forever. And so we bring these people in and pour our heart into them and train them, and they grow, which they should, and we celebrate growth and we want them to be where they're supposed to be. But it's always hard when you have to lose people that you love so much because of their next chapter of growth.
Yeah, okay. Now, I want to dive a little deeper more into the actual services that you provide for your clients. So, what are the services that you would say your clients come to you most often for? And also, why do you think that those are so much in demand?
I'm going to say for our salon in particular, and then kind of prioritize it into the work that I do with clients.
Hmm.
Right now, what we're seeing is we're really seeing that people want to come back to a more natural element of themselves. And because of the amount and volume of continuing education we provide through myself and to my team, we don't shy away from more challenging types of services. And I'm just going to speak one service in particular that we have seen a really big influx in is women who are ready to transition back to their natural gray color.
Mm.
And I think this is something that kind of started during COVID because so many people weren't able to get to their hairstylist and they started seeing their natural color come through. But I love the fact that women are now really embracing their natural beauty. But this is a service that is not for the faint of heart. You really have to know what you're doing to do these types of color transition services. It can take up to 9 hours that you do in one sitting.
Wow.
To help them get to it. And it's a huge investment. We charge by the hour for that service, and it's not a one and done. Once you come in for that service, we can get you to a really, really great place where you feel like a lot of good things have happened, but then there is some maintenance as well. So that's probably one of our primary things that we have seen more growth of in services, as well as just for our company, people who really want to make transitions, and based on our reputation, they trust our opinion and they trust our plan for them. Mm-hmm. So we just had a client today who was reaching out to us, and she has high textured, we call it 4C hair, very coiled, beautiful hair, and wants to go from long to a very cropped look. That's a huge change. There's a lot of emotional connection to what we are and what we look like. And then also trusting someone with your hair is a big step. And so we've had a lot of conversations back and forth about finding what is a comfortable look for them. We want to make sure there's realistic expectations when somebody's making a huge change like that, and just making sure that it fits in with their lifestyle and their overall idea of who they want to position themselves out in the world. So really, I think the key things that we do are we really help people through big transitional changes, and it's because of how we listen to what their needs are and set those realistic expectations with them.
Okay. Now, I want to take a step back to one of the early ones you mentioned, the transition, and people really going back to that natural look. So I think that's really important because I have a lot of other guests on this show. Some of them are a little bit more in the medical space, but a lot of them, what they're seeing is that people are looking for more of that natural look, that natural treatment. And it's interesting that you're also seeing that as well. What do you think it was that kind of caused people to want to go back to that more natural look or natural treatment? You mentioned a little bit about COVID, but do you think that this is just a temporary trend because of just for COVID, or you think there's kind of more of a bigger movement behind it?
I think that this trend of natural is really, to your point, stemming from COVID because people really got to let go of all of the trappings of having to fix themselves up. But then they kind of started coming back into Zoom videos. So they needed to make the front look at least good. But I think the minute people started letting go of the volume of work, for a lack of a better word, of styling their hair, or putting on their makeup, or how they were working with their clothes, I think it was really a relief to them. And as a result of that, they wanted to embrace that. And I think that from like a cultural aspect, I think that people want to explore that more, but find the best natural version for them. I had listened to some of your other podcasts, so I know that that's a popular topic. And I'll say it's so true in our industry as well. We're really starting to help people embrace their natural texture, whether it's wavy or curly or coily. We're helping them become more comfortable with their natural hair color without feeling like they have to put so much work or so much maintenance or money into the investment of it. And I think people feel like they're being more true to themselves and their lifestyle when we can help them meet those goals.
Okay. Now, this natural looking, I guess, trend we'll call it, are there any other trends that you're starting to see that you're particularly excited about, or ones that you think is maybe in the early stages, but it's really going to pick up or maybe stay around for a long period of time?
I'm going to say there's a couple different things. And first, we'll just say, like, I'm going to talk about like haircuts first. In haircuts, we're definitely seeing people. I see more people who want to find ways to minimize the amount of work they put day to day into styling their hair. And I think we're going to continue with that. But what we're also seeing now is we're seeing a lot of people who are interested in scalp health as well as hair health. And I think we're starting to see a movement in what we're able to provide from services and technologies and products available to clients to start having them become more educated about scalp health and how it helps their hair grow and how it helps to keep their hair healthy. So we provide some specialty treatments for our clients to help induce really positive, healthy scalp health. It's a lot of words to say. But I think we're also starting to see a lot of product as well. So I'll say scalp health. We also are starting to have more conversations about thinning hair. I think we have more and more people who are having concerns with thinning hair. We're starting to see more answers for them. So I think those are two things that we're really going to continue to see grow in our industry.
Okay. Now, I'm also starting to hear some things as far as regenerative medicine treatment, stem cell therapy, particularly for, I guess, more in the area of hair loss or thinning hair. So PRP, PRF, all those ones. What has been your experience kind of with all these different types of new treatments, and even your thoughts on these new types of treatments?
Sure. I think they're incredible. I think there's some really great resources. And of course, while I'm not a medical professional, I have friends and colleagues who are, and we talk a lot about this. What we originally had as a source for hair rejuvenation is we had minoxidil, which is a topical. It's like what's in Nioxin and Rogaine, those kind of things. And it, from a research standpoint, definitely helps to regenerate hair growth. It puts it into a growth phase. So you are required to stay on that topical treatment, because if you go off of it, then you go into shedding phase. So it's dependent on that. But even some clients who've had some really big challenges regenerating hair growth, I have heard from my medical colleagues that PRP is a great resource. Even microneedling helps into the scalp. So when someone has exhausted maybe all of the over-the-counter options, I think there's definitely a whole new level of professional medical grade treatments that these clients can now go to, and they're getting some results.
Okay. Now, out of all the treatments and transformations that we talked about so far, is there one that really means the most to you personally? And if so, what's the reason for it?
Treatments that I personally, here's what I'll just say is that the technology and science behind the hair products and what we can do with the hair has really grown exponentially. And what we used to do with a client when we're working with hair and we're asking the hair to change color at all, hair is just like a fiber, like a fabric. And so a lot of times if a client comes in and says, I am super dark and I want to be as blonde as possible, we always explain it's the same thing. If I take a pair of black jeans and I put them in bleach until they get white, I can in theory get there, but what's the integrity of that fabric by the time I get to that point? So what we've seen happen in the technology of hair care and the chemicals that we use to color hair, we now are incorporating bonding treatments. We have so much more technology and how we're asking the hair to make these chemical changes that are leaving the integrity of the hair in such a better place. So we can push hair a little bit farther than we did before, but have even better results than we used to have in the past. We don't have to rely so much on secondary treatments because the repair is happening within the products that we use. I think that this is going to just continue to advance for the future of the products that we create in our industry. So it helps clients achieve their goals, but still maintaining really healthy hair.
Okay. And this is a great kind of tie into this that we're talking about. So when you're working with your clients, like how do you approach the consultation with them so that they feel confident and comfortable even with choosing the right style or the cut or the color? You kind of talked a little about this before, really got in through this, but how do you personally approach this? I'm sure that your educational background also helps with this, but could you talk a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question and super important thing to talk about. It's really important that when clients walk through the door, we have to realize that they probably have had experience in the past. They might be walking in with some expectations, maybe positive, maybe unsure. And so our first thing is to really build trust with them. And that is really making sure that we sit down with the client, we're looking at them face to face, and we have to really listen and not just listen to what they're verbalizing to us, but what are they not saying? A lot of times clients, whether it's in my industry with hair or in other industries, they don't know the technology or the terms to be describing what they want. And so we have to really listen between their words to help them get where they want to go. We have to ask what kind of lifestyle they're living, how often are they doing their hair, or how often do they want maintenance to be? We have to ask them what's their investment that they want to continue with. So once we listen to them, then we need to build a realistic plan that fits with all of the things we've heard them say. And we have to also just really make sure that it feels realistic for them. And we want to make sure that it's not just a one-day experience, that it's the start of a journey that goes through building a relationship with them to help them continually feel like they're meeting their goals. So listening, I also always say educating. It's such an important thing as well, especially with all the new options we have available to our clients for their hair and for their scalp. We can't make it sound like we're selling. We have to truly authentically share the information about the why. Why is this product the right product for your hair versus somebody else's hair? How is this going to help you reach your goals? When we come from an authentic place of educating, I think we connect with those clients and they really connect with us on the long-term journey versus the short-term.
And I think you made a really, really good point in there as far as this is not just a one-time thing. It's really the first step in the entire journey. And I've never really thought of it that way. So I'm glad that you put it in that perspective, you put it in that light. And do you find that a lot of your clients look at it as a long-term journey, or do most of them start off just, oh, this is just a one-time thing, and then you have to educate them on this is actually a long-term transformation?
Yeah, I think it depends on the client. Our goal is always try to connect with a long-term journey with our guest. And that is by making sure they feel heard and they can trust us. But it also kind of depends on where you are in life. We have clients who are early in their professional careers, they're in their 20s. Their beauty investment budget probably isn't something that they put into their budget every month or every quarter. So we don't see them maybe as frequently as maybe like a young professional in their 30s, where now they have a little bit more disposable income. They maybe are in their career at a point where they really want to identify with what their outside looks like in partnership with what they do for a living. And so then they might be more interested in anchoring with us. But the key in either one of those situations is that in that consultation, we're hearing where they live with that, and we're building that plan for them. So whatever their timeline is, fits in with them comfortably.
Okay. Now, I'm sure that when people come in, there's very often you hear kind of the same misunderstandings or misconceptions or even myths when it comes to what you do or hair care or hair transformations. Could you share maybe some of the common myths, misunderstandings that you most often hear and why they are myths?
Yeah, I will come back and speak to, let's just talk about color correction for a moment, because that's a really big one. And this is where we have to have a shared reality is the term that we use a lot with our guests. Because if someone has been coloring their hair, and let's just say like with the color black for a long, long time, that has really built up on their hair. And then they decide that they want to make a big change. And now all of a sudden they want to be blonde or they want to be red. Well, first coming back to the story of, what's the integrity of the fabric? If I help you get there, is there still hair left over? But I don't have so much magic in my wand that I can instantly transform you in one day, depending on how intense that history of your hair is when you show up. So sometimes we're just making sure that the shared reality is at the right place with them, and that we can actually achieve in what they want to have happen. So that's like in hair color. When we get into haircuts and styling, the same thing, like if somebody comes in and their inspiration picture is an image of Charlize Theron and they say, but yet I only want to come to the salon twice a year and I air dry my hair, we're going to have a really hard time helping them meet that goal. It doesn't mean that we can't negotiate where we land with that. We can certainly use that inspiration as inspiration for our conversation, but it's just making sure that the expectations meet the reality and then just negotiating. I will say from a business owner standpoint, what I train with my team is that if we can't come to a mutual shared reality, they're probably not the right fit for us. I would rather say no to a guest early than overpromise and underperform, and then everybody's disappointed by that. So we want to make sure that we're getting to the shared reality, but if we can't, then we probably aren't the right fit for that person.
Got it. Now, I want to talk about the balancing part of this, balancing the beauty and the health side, because sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. So how do you really ensure that not only do you help them look stunning, but also protecting their hair health?
Yeah, I think in order to make sure they look great and maintain their hair health, fortunately, we have a lot of really great products that we can use now on clients' hair that helps to maintain the integrity. Again, this does come back to educating the client, because sometimes clients undervalue the treatment portion of what we can provide in service. And they think that rather than do the treatment, they can save a little bit of money and just go through with the chemical portion of it. And I would really recommend anyone who's in that place to please trust the professional you're talking to. And when they suggest a treatment, they're not doing it, as long as you're right with the right person, they're not doing it to get more money out of you. They're doing it because they know this is how we are going to get you to that end result in the healthiest place. So don't shortcut yourself on whatever your hair journey is.
Okay, thank you. That was a very good explanation about that. Now, I want to talk about your salon itself. Obviously, you're very experienced, you've been in the industry a long time, but how would you describe what really sets you apart from others in the industry and even others in your area?
So what sets us apart in our area is, one, our focus on continuing education. The industry standard for the hair industry is that only 20% of hairstylists take part in continuing education.
Oh, wow.
So it's a really small part. So when you are out shopping for a hairstylist, please always ask, how often do they take education? When was the last class that they took? And please, going to YouTube and TikTok is a great place to find inspiration and education, but it's not the same as hands-on. You really want stylists who are invested in hands-on education. It's the best way to learn. I also think that I'll take a step back. When I was going to cosmetology school, I was in North Idaho, and I graduated from school and I worked at a small salon there. And what I loved about that salon is that whenever a client walked in, every single hairstylist knew that person's name. And that has always been the feeling that I want when somebody walks into our space. We are not a huge salon. We have 6 styling chairs. So it's not the same as, huge salons that have 15 or 20 chairs going on. And our team is small, but we try to stay really connected with our clients. And we want our clients to know that when you call and we see your name on that caller ID, we know exactly who you are. We know your story. We know how to help you. And I think that is really one of the points of difference that we work on with our clients to help us stay in front of our market.
Okay. Now, hair is such a creative field. So how do you keep your inspiration fresh and also make sure the styles are evolving along with that?
Yes. In order to make sure we're staying in front of trends, this does kind of come back to education again as well, which is really important. And making sure that we're pushing ourselves in what we're looking out for trends. So there's a few different ways that we find trends. I'll say right now, social media is probably the best way. It's moving the fastest and can help us stay in front of those things. We used to say Pinterest. I'll just say Pinterest. I think it's not a great place for inspiration. Pinterest is what is or has. It's not where we're going. It's harder to find where we're going with things. But going into social media and really paying attention, finding other people in the industry who are staying 2 steps ahead, and then also looking at the global market, what's happening in Europe, what's happening in Asia, what's happening in these other parts of the world that are maybe going to start drifting over into the US, and how are we going to start translating these when we work with clients. There's a fact about trends. A trend is a 6-year process. So it's 2 years coming in, 2 years living, and then 2 years going out. And we have some clients who always want to be on the front of the 2 years. They're the trend setters. They're establishing what the trend is. And then we have the people like, now it's established. It's a little bit better comfort zone for others. And then we have the ones by the time my private school moms are coming in asking for it, we know we're probably on, it's a very comfortable trend now, and we're almost on our way out of it. No discount to those moms. I love them so much, and we talk about that all the time. But, we really have to look at the big picture, what's happening in our city, what's happening in the country, and we have to look at globally what's happening and stay on top of it all the time.
Got it. Okay. Now, Mandy, without naming names, would you mind sharing maybe a guest story that was particularly rewarding or challenging or memorable, and really how you approach that entire process with them?
Yeah. I'll just say I've had so many great transition clients, and that's a really emotional journey for people, because if you have a woman who has been coloring her hair for, I'm just going to say 30, 40, 50, like 20 to 30 years, who they show up as is part of their identity. And it anchors a lot of times back to maybe whatever was the best moment of their lives. A lot of times they hold on to that identity, and it's really hard to let go of it. So when these women come in and they're ready to make these big transitions, we have a lot of conversations about it, because it's not just about how they will be viewed as in themselves when they look in the mirror, but how will others look at them? So I had a client who came in for a gray transition. She had been a redhead for so long, and red's a really striking color. It's a very identifying color, and it very much is a part of a person's identity when they're a redhead. And so we started the process of transitioning her to her natural gray. That was an all-day 9-hour process to do that. And that was step 1. We got to actually a really great end result, but there was still a little bit more work to do. And I'll just say, when you're working on somebody for 9 hours, that's a lot of conversation that you have, and you learn so much about them. And anytime somebody chooses to put their trust in you for that big of a change, it is really such an honor to get to work with them. So we did the transition with her. And then when she came back for her follow-up appointments, she was sharing with me with tears in her eyes about how it's changed her life. She feels so free because she's no longer handcuffed to having to get her roots done every 4 weeks. I mean, that's a huge thing for anybody, but it's women generally who every 4 weeks they have to get to the salon, or that gray retouch is showing. And it doesn't make them feel powerful or great about how they look. So she felt so free. And then she also was just sharing about how the people around her were giving her such positive feedback, to the extent where other women in her industry were saying, oh, I want to go do that too. That was so brave of you to go gray. And now I want to do it because of how you've modeled this experience for me. So whenever somebody gives us that much trust, I really appreciate it. And I love getting to see that transformation for them.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful story. I mean, anytime in the beauty industry, kind of almost no matter what it is, the stories that most practitioners share is always the one where it's transformative. It's either they feel like they're being their best self, or they're just getting back to feeling normal. Which I think is kind of overlooked a lot when people from the outside look at the beauty industry. It's like, oh, it's just about vanity. It's just about you want to be better than or look better than everyone else. But very often it's just you want to be your best self. And I think that's lost on a lot of people. So I think that story of transformation is just fantastic. So Mandy, where do you think the future is going for the industry? Like over the next few years or especially with everything like with trends that come and go? Like, where do you think the industry is headed?
Where I think the industry is headed, I think we're at a really transitional place right now. And I'm going to just talk about AI in the industry. Hairstylists are very lucky because it will be a very, very long time before we have robots who can do hair. Clients still want that experience of a person doing their hair. I think we're going to continue to see technologies advance in the chemistry of what we can provide in hair color and lighteners to help keep people's hair as healthy as possible while we're coloring their hair. And I think what we're going to see from an experience standpoint is we're going to see more AI integration in some of the front-facing ways that clients start connecting with salons and businesses. But I've done some research on this and it's pretty incredible. We're going to see some incredible consultation tools come out as a result of AI. And already there's technology where there's consultation mirrors where you come into the salon and you sit in front of a mirror with your stylist and you can actually try on different hair colors and hairstyles from the mirror, as well as there's apps that already do that a little bit, but I think we'll keep seeing better and better advancement in that technology. I think we're going to start seeing more client education, getting to clients faster through whether like we can develop apps for that. So before they come into the salon, they've already connected with their stylist that they are going to be meeting and know something about them. They already have an idea about maybe some product selections that's going to be a good fit for their hair. So I think that we're going to be elevating the client experience in salons with a lot of the AI technology and then the science and technology behind what we can produce in products to keep hair healthier as we ask it to do more.
Okay, that's awesome. It's crazy to think of that. You can just sit in front of a mirror and then you'd be like, oh, I want to try this hairstyle. I want to try this color. And then it just shows you what it looks like.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Okay, well, Mandy, I have one last question for you. But before I ask it, I want to point people to your website at fixsalonseattle.com. Now, last question is, what is the number one piece of advice you can give to someone who's thinking about switching stylist or maybe making that bold change that you were talking about, but feels nervous about it?
I love this question. And I'll tell you, it's funny because my mom, who lives in a different town, her hairstylist is retiring. So I'm actually helping her do the research to make this change. There's a lot of different reasons why people need a new stylist, whether they've moved, someone's retired, or they just feel like they want a fresh opinion on their hair. But no matter what, it's scary. And we always say, like, when somebody moves, you have to find your doctor, your dentist, and your hairstylist. And hairstylist is typically the toughest one to find because it's hard to build that relationship. But please take the time to schedule a consultation with a stylist before you book the service, or book a more non-invasive service. Book just like a simple blowout. Come into the salon environment, see how it feels, ask questions. Don't forget to ask about when education happened last for that stylist you're working with and how involved they are in education. Just ask a lot of questions, but when you come in for a consultation or for that non-invasive service, like more like just a blowout, you're really starting to see if you connect with that person, if you speak a common language, if you feel like you're heard when you're sharing information that's important to you, and then seeing how they help start building the relationship for that extended journey versus the one-time journey.
Got it. Well, there you have it. Mandy sharing her expertise. So Mandy, where can people contact you in your salon?
So if you want to contact us in the salon, go to our website. I'll tell you, we have an amazing software, AI, on there where it's called Meet Your Stylist. You can take the quiz and it partners you with the perfect stylist on our team. I am in the salon 2 days a week. I'm doing a lot of travel and work with the things I do with Redken. So I'm not there as often, but I'm always open to giving consultations and opinion to anyone who is looking for something new. We love those type of clients.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show and sharing your message, Mandy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.